Good morning and welcome to the webinar. Today's topic is on extending the power of Sage 100 Contractor with Zoom Geeks. Our subject matter expert today is Henry Lubis from Accord & Company. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is muted for a clean listening experience. So if you have questions, please type them into the questions box and we will be happy to address them at the end of the session. This presentation is being recorded and a copy will be emailed out to everybody later on today. I will now turn it over to you, Henry.
Thank you, Krista, and good morning, everyone. Great to be with you on this beautiful day here in the Northeast. Today, we're going to chat about leveraging the power of Sage 100 Contractor with Zoom Geeks. And just by way of a bit of an introduction, I have some of the folks that are on the call I recognize, I've worked with and chatted with over the years, but I'm certainly interested in making new acquaintances across the customer base. But I'm Henry Lubis. I've been working with Sage 100 Contractor it will be 19 years in February. So it used to be called Master Builder when I started. I have worked with thousands of customers throughout that time and have experienced probably just about everything that you can encounter with the application. A huge fan of it and still continue to do a lot of work with it. But there are just times where there are challenges, right? We're trying to push the envelope with what Sage 100 Contractor can do. It's a great out-of-the-box solution, which gives you some flexibility for customization, but sometimes just a couple of things that have been irking me over the years is the form development, right? So custom forms, proposals, contracts, change orders. Sage gives you a report writing tool. It's a little complicated, I'll be perfectly honest. The average user can't figure it out, but our consultants certainly can. So we do a lot of custom form development for our clients. Sometimes those forms require changes. What happens if you have a contract and your attorney says, hey, we need to change this clause? Well, you got to use the form design tool. And does that mean, excuse me, you have to hire a consultant to do that? And then sometimes integration with outside solutions, right? There are people using solutions for purchasing, for estimating, for time capture, for payroll that require integration from those systems into Sage 100. And how do we accomplish that? Or you need to send data out from Sage, positive pay as an example. We're going to chat about that. How do you accomplish a lot of that? And then certainly accommodating custom workflows. Like how do I take a process built into Sage and make it faster, make it more unique, etc. So, these are some of the challenges I've experienced over the years. And what I've been able to do is I found a company called Zoom Geeks. We'll get into what they do and where they come from. But Zoom Geeks over the years have, probably more experience than I have with Master Builder. Andrea Chapman's the principal over there. And over the years, she has developed a team of programmers that accommodate a lot of the challenges that we've just talked about through some pretty creative programming. And we're going to go through some of that. Usually when we talk about Zoom, there's a couple of different categories of applications that they've developed. One are called merge applications. We're going to spend time with most of these here. Merge is, hey, let's take a document or form and merge the data from the form from Sage 100 into a Word doc. So we're going to talk about how that might be useful. Also, integrate. How are we going to import or export data from other applications or to other applications? We'll talk about some of that. Automate. How do we take a business workflow process that you could probably do in Sage with manual steps like cut and paste or what have you, but automate it so that it happens very quickly. They have some other apps. I'm not going to spend time with validate and audit apps that they have. This is just looking at your data, looking for inconsistencies or errors or invalid data. And we'll introduce you to how to get more information on that. Now, how do they accomplish all this? Well, they have this app called ZMax One Click. That's sort of the foundation of the entire application. I'm going to jump back and forth right here, if you don't mind. So, here's my desktop. And right down here, in my tray, I have this ZMax One Click app. So they have this app that kind of sits, you launch it from your desktop. And then from there, you would load your apps. So you can see I have many of their custom apps on the left-hand side here. But as you purchase apps or build apps or what have you, you'll get more of these here. They've got an easy way to download apps. They make changes. You just download them here, and they're available to you. So what first category of apps we're going to look at are called merge apps. So we're going to take a look at how we're going to use a merge app to create a subcontract, a proposal, and a change request or change order from Sage into a Word doc. So let's come back into my Sage right here. So hopefully this looks familiar to most people on the call today, but I'm going to go to my projects and I'm going to go to subcontracts here. And I'm going to go to the last subcontract in the file. So this is a subcontract in Sage. Hopefully many of you are familiar with this and are using this. But how do we generate a document, for that we can send to a subcontractor for approval? When you buy Sage, this is what you get. You get a form. It looks like a purchase order. It's not a terrible form, but there's a place for you to sign, a place for the subcontractor to sign. Many of our clients need a much more customized legal contract. Well, over the years, using the report design tool, we've created for many customers a formal document. So here's a 15-page AIA G402 looking subcontract document. Many clients have a short form or other forms, and we use the Sage report design tool to create this. I believe I created this one, maybe 10 plus years ago. And I will tell you, it probably took me, 2 to 3 days to get it perfect. So it was a lot of effort to get that document. Now, what if, like I said before, your attorney comes in and says, oh, we need to make some changes. So you'd have to use the form design tool in Sage. And as I said, with some training, it's not terrible. You can come in here, make the changes, but it does require a little bit of training. But what if there's a change to one term in a contract for this specific contractor? How do you do that? Well, that becomes a bit more problematic. So one way we accomplish things like that is the merge app. So when you have ZMax one-click installed, you'll see a blue button on many of your screens. This is how we launch the app. So in this case, I'm going to launch a merge app called the subcontract. It's going to save it into a location. You can change the default location. I've already done it. But now what you're going to see is a Word doc with details from the subcontract, including the project information, the scope of work here, and all of the other text you're seeing here is just boilerplate, which you've created a Word template that gets mail merged. So let's say in this case, you agreed to, well, I don't have a $2 million of this type of insurance. I have 1,500. So you can see we have flexibility when it comes to modifying that document. You may or may not want to have that flexibility or provide that flexibility, but in situations where it's required, it is there. So that's one merge app from a contract. The second area I see that a lot is in takeoffs, right? So if you're using Sage 100 basic estimating tool, I have it open here. We will have a takeoff detail. You can see this has multiple bid items, and bid items here are, based on your contract values and your quantities, and I have values here. And again, just like before, there's an out-of-the-box proposal that, may not be that appropriate, but what we like to do is it's much more powerful to create that proposal using a merge. Now this one actually allows multiple formats. So maybe you have different types of proposals based on the type of job. But let's just create the standard one and show you what that looks like. Again, we're going to put it into a location. It already exists. And now the details from the quote are embedded into a Word doc. And again, there's not a lot of detail filled in right here, but these are my bid items, my quantities, my prices, my terms and conditions, which again can be modified in a template or modified one-off. So much more flexible and powerful opportunity. The third type of merge app I want to talk about here is a change order, right? So if I come into change orders, I'll go this one here, last one in the file. Oops. Okay, so this is a change order. And again, like before, you might have a subcontract change notice or a change order that needs to be customized. And doing a merge app here, this is actually an interesting one because if this is a subcontract change order, right, you might have multiple subcontracts impacted by this. I can pick which ones I want to print. And again, it's opening up Word, and there's your subcontract change order. Again, merging the vendor information, the project, the scope of work, and also just like Sage, recapping the subcontract detail. So again, just a couple of examples of how merge apps can be very, very useful and powerful for, to help manage Sage, right? All right. So the next class of apps are called integration apps, right? So again, this is where we're going to integrate third-party outside systems inside of Sage. And I've done a whole bunch of them over the years for people, purchase orders. I've got clients that use a custom purchasing application and they need to bring that detail into Sage or takeoff integration. One client in a very specialized industry has an industry standard estimating tool that they have to use. Well, we were able to take those details, bring it into a takeoff so I can create budgets and purchase orders and all those things. Time card integration. Many times we're in a situation where our clients already have a time card application they're comfortable with, and it's a non-standard one. There's many that automatically talk to Sage, but they don't want to disrupt the field by changing a payroll app, a time card app, just because a new system is coming in. So we can integrate with that. We create positive pay files. This is an example of an extraction going the other way. Or LCP Tracker, if you're doing certified payroll, LCP Tracker is a program some jurisdictions require that you use, right? So we've built an integration where we create the file that we upload to LCP Tracker. And we'll talk about payroll integration here in a second. So again, how do we do integration? Now, a lot of times the data that I have doesn't necessarily fit the information. But as an example, if I come into the takeoff, I'm going to say import an auto quote estimate. Now, auto quote is the custom estimating system, industry standard estimating system I was referring to. But what happens is that system will generate an Excel file with the details. We find that file and import it with some validation. Right? I don't have those files, so I can't show that, but you'll get the idea. Also, purchase orders. Click on the integration app, import from FabSuite. FabSuite is a industry standard solution, project management solution for steel erection. So they create purchase orders because there's a lot of very specific specifications you require for steel, and that product does it. So when they're done, we just export it and then import it back into Sage. Or time cards. You'll see here, if I go to daily payroll, we usually import to daily payroll for time cards. We've integrated with at least 4 systems over the years that I'm familiar with. FingerCheck, T-Sheet's a very popular one. Many clients are migrating, from QuickBooks, and T-Sheets is popular there, so we can import the data, right? But I think the most popular or the most useful integration app is one that we have with a payroll company. So we did a webinar 2 weeks ago on a payroll integration options. We're not going to go into all that detail right now, but it is recorded. If you'd like to see that, make a request to Krista. She'll get you the recording. But one of the things we talked about is how we can have a third-party payroll provider. People use that information, and then we've developed a ZMax one-click app to import that info directly into the Sage 522 records so that we can process payroll as if we did it in-house. So let me just show you that real quick. I do need to change my companies. This is called the one-way sync version. I will open up that company. Now, the first step of the process is the payroll provider has to provide you with some files. We work with a number of payroll companies out of the box. This happens to be a company called Balance Point. They've been very good at providing the data I need, but practically every payroll provider, if you give them the specifications, can generate these files. So a lot of times people don't want to change their payroll provider. They're comfortable with who they have, and okay, we'll just give them our specs and away you go. But what we do in that regard is we've built a Zoom app, and let me open up the 522, and we say import from balance points. When I launch the app, a couple steps here, and hang on one second, let me just enlarge my screen. Again, those files are saved in this directory, which I can change. I'm going to import the file. So we do some pre-validation. So what does that mean? Well, we can't just import data into Sage that's invalid, right? So like Sage can't accept a negative paycheck. This company, that's how they handle voids. So we don't allow that. If you notice over here in this column, this is where we will pick and choose the checks that we want to import. You can see I have another message. Cost code is missing, but this time cost record has a job. Well, you can't do a final compute on a 522 record if the cost code is missing. So we won't allow you to import that. You'd have to go into the file and fix it before it happens. When you're happy with everything, you can see I have 85 records. You're going to do some validation perhaps, and there's 4 errors. But in this case, let's import this particular transaction. So hit the update button. It says 1 check was successfully created. So if I come back into the payroll record and go to the 522 screen, now again, this was created by the Zoom Geeks app, right? So there's the employee's name, the check number that the payroll provider had. This case, this company did their time capture directly into the payroll provider, which is a common occurrence. And then if I go to the calculation tab, all of the deduction codes that the payroll provider had indicated are now here. And if you notice, I'm overwriting all those values. I could, from here, I could do a trial compute. So if I have things like workers' comp I need to burden, or company paid in benefits that the payroll company is not aware of, those will all be added right here. Now, how do we know? Well, again, this is where we get very creative. If I drill down to the payroll calculation, I have a reference between a payroll calculation and the balance point code. So in that file you saw earlier, it's called dead cost, DEDCOST, deduction cost file. The payroll provider will provide us with a row that says for check number, whatever that check number 10453, we have a code called welfare, and it was for whatever value it was, $358.75. Well, the app is smart enough to merge that app. Merge the payroll calculation to that code and embed it into here. So very, very powerful version of an integration app. There are others that we have done over the years. I mentioned LCP Tracker. Again, I'm not going to launch it here, but we have right here a certified payroll export. This would create a file as I pick it. Okay, I haven't done it here. Would select a file. Would create a file. There we go. We have this where we're going to save the information. And that's how we would create that. Now, the other one that's very popular these days, especially with all sorts of banking fraud, is Positive Pay, right? So we have an app for Positive Pay. It says, okay, where am I going to save the file? Which checking account do I want to pick here? What template? So the way this app works is, we worked with a handful of banks. Every bank has their own format. You give us that, we'll customize it, and we just pick it from the list. And then what date range? So if you're familiar with Positive Pay, we will create a file we upload to the bank saying these are the checks we've written today. What's interesting about this app too is we manage voids. So if you void a check inside of Sage, you want to send that information out to your bank so the bank doesn't clear that check by accident. So again, when I come into some of the integration apps, we've done a lot of things. If you have a unique requirement, let us know what that is, and we can certainly identify that. So one of the values, again, this is from last week's presentation. If we were to do what we just said, the payroll provider is responsible for taxing and filing. We can get the job cost details into Sage. We can burden. We can do union certified. And the cons is, well, you have to manage maybe double enter employees or things. You have, if you go directly to a payroll company, you have to use their time capture options. whereas Sage has a lot more, and you don't have as much flexibility with things like layoff checks, et cetera, and costs. You have to pay for a payroll provider's service fees, right? So anyway, check out the recording of the webinar we did 2 weeks ago. And the last one type of app we're going to talk about is called automation apps. So what does this mean? So this is where we get really creative. Is we'll take data and move it around inside of Sage. So let's go again. Sorry, I'm going to jump around a little bit here and go back to my sample company. So when I talk about an automation app, we're not doing anything that Sage doesn't allow. We're just doing it faster, right? Or more efficiently. So as an example, inventory replenishment, what does that mean? So if I have a part, and again, if you're a specialty subcontractor, you'll have an inventory component. This is something that you might need to manage. So for example, right now for this condenser fan motor, I have 10 on hand, but in the warehouse, but I would like to have somewhere between 50 and 75 at all time in the warehouse, and 10 and 20 in a job trailer. So how do I know to replenish that or make a purchase order for that? Well, there is a report over here. So if I come into inventory reports and go to this inventory reorder report and go to this one here by location, it's going to tell me for 5561 in the warehouse location, I have 10 available. I should have at least 50. You should buy 40, right? And if I go to the second page of this report, in the job trailer location, I have none. I should have 10. So now you have a report and you have to manually go create a purchase order. Well, in Sage or with Zoom Geeks, we've created an app to do that for you automatically. So let's go launch that. So this is called the Inventory Replenishment app. So now what you're going to see here is every item that requires potential replenishment. So as I scroll, if you look up here, here's 5561 in location 100. I have 10 on hand, and my min max is 50. This is configured to purchase up to the max. So in this case, we're going to purchase 65, so we get to the max. By the way, we're using the default vendor from the item list right here. And again, for a different location, we're going to have the job trailer location. I need to order 20 because my max is 20. I have none on hand. Now this is interesting. Look at this part number. We have none in stock, but I have, one second, let me just refresh this. I have 250 on an open sales order. So if you're replenishing an inventory that you're selling, so on an open work order, I have 250 open work orders. So that's a demand, but I've got 200 coming in. So I have 200 coming into location 100 in a purchase order. I got a little window down here, what purchase orders are available. So, once I get what I have coming in and ship out what I'm supposed to send out, I'm going to be negative 50, pending quantity on hand. My projection is I'm going to be, understocked by 50. Well, if I min max and I want to get up to my max, I need to order 150. So what you can do right here too, maybe you don't want to get up to that level. You just want to order 75. And maybe even this one here, we want to change the vendor. I could do that right here. But now that I'm happy with my replenishment quantities, I'm going to process to order. We're about to create 3 purchase orders. Why? We have one item, one vendor, but 2 different locations. I have to have 2 different ship-to locations on my purchase orders. And I've added those 3 purchase orders. Now, if I go back to the purchase order system, go to the last record in the file. There's the 75 of those I ordered. There's the 20 of those going to location 110. And there is the 65 going to location 100. So that's an example of automating from a process in Sage. One other type of app we might do has been popular is to automatically create a work order from a job. So a lot of times people will use work orders to schedule people and resources, or they have a job, which is a contract, and they need to issue work orders against the contract with some data that's standard. Well, we have an app here that would say create work order from a template. In this particular case, where'd it go? I can have multiple templates. Maybe it's a specific type of work order. I only have one here, and I'm going to create the work order. And it says work order number 370 was created. So if I were to go out to my 11.2 screen here, go to the last record in the file, I've created this work order. It's to the customer, it's to the job. I can set some defaults like work order type or materials or labor or some costs that I'm going to bill automatically. But you see, we've created templates and we've automated a process inside of Sage. One final merge app I want to talk about is, and again, I know this is a very specialized one, but you can hopefully see the power of what we can do. If you are familiar with unitary billing and takeoff proposals, etc., you can create a takeoff in Sage, right? And we have bid items here, right? Now, what we can do with this is I can go from here and I can export a unitary proposal. There's an export button right here. And I can create a regular proposal, but you can see there's no opportunity or option to create a unitary proposal. So with Zoom, we fixed it. Here it is. We'll go through here. It's going to do some validation. Okay, which items do I want to bring over to the proposal? And I'm going to process it. It says it already exists. I'm going to override it. That's fine. And it says I've created a unitary proposal and I've created a new budget. So what we've automated then is the unitary proposal. So again, I know not many people use this, but just to show you what we've been able to do, here's all those details which were not typed in. They came from the takeoff, summarized in an appropriate way. And by the way, if you're familiar with the takeoff process, this contract value does not populate with your standard. It does with this application. So, those are the apps I just wanted to preview with you. Just to give you a little bit more background on Zoom Geeks, if you'd like to see what some of the things they do, go out to zoomgeeks.com. We'll go take a quick look over there. The way they price their work is this. The Zoom Geek app, sort of the core foundation, is $395 plus 20% maintenance. And their apps range in price, right? Every merge app is $200. As an example, the Positive Pay app is $595 that we talked about. The Balance Point integration, a little more complex and more setup, et cetera. We've valued that at $27.95. Also, we can customize things. So tell me what your workflow is. Tell me what you'd like to do. And let's spend some time. We develop a specification document and we create a custom app. I'm working with a client right now. They're going to a payroll outsourcing company. They're an employee leasing company, but they want to bring in data from that company that would, it's an accounts payable invoice, but it needs to look like a payroll record, right? And if you tried that, you can't put hours in an AP transaction. So we're going to automate all of that. And just so take a quick look at Zoom Geeks. This is their website. Take a look at it. Do me a favor. Don't try to contact them if you have any questions. Contact us. These guys are great technology people, great consultants, really, really smart. They're not great marketers, so we're client service folks. So they call me. I will get you what you need. And if you'd like, you can go look at some of their Zoom Geeks one-clicks apps. So if you look here, there's all sorts of predefined apps that they have already. So if there's anything that's of interest to you or anything that we talked about today you'd like to see, please give me a call and we'll be happy to attend or address it. Okay, I'm right at time, but I will spend some time with any questions. Krista, do you have questions that have popped up?
We have no questions yet. If you do have one, please enter it in the box and we'll be happy to answer. a minute. Looks like no one has any questions.
All right. I must have done an awesome job once again.
Yeah.
So, hey, everyone, thank you very much for attending today. I get pretty excited when, I talk about what we can do with Zoom to help our clients leverage, their investment in Sage 100 Contractor. And if there's an opportunity to work with you guys, please call me direct, and I'll be happy to do so. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.